Tom Sanders sighed as he threw another bag of trash into the dumpster behind his apartment building in Neo San Francisco. The night air was cool, carrying the hum of the city that never seemed to sleep. As he turned to leave, a faint, peculiar cry stopped him in his tracks. "What?" Tom muttered, peering into the dumpster. The sound was unlike anything he had ever heard before, a melodic whimper that tugged at his heartstrings. Carefully, he climbed up to get a better look. Wrapped in a shiny silver fabric was a small, blue-skinned creature with large, luminous eyes. It was unmistakably alien. Its tiny hands reached out as if pleading for help. Tom's initial surprise quickly turned to concern. "Hello, little one. What are you doing here alone?" The baby cooed, its eyes locking with Tom's. Despite the oddness of the situation, Tom felt an overwhelming protective instinct take over. Gently, he lifted the baby out of the dumpster. "I can't leave you here," he said, more to himself than to the baby. Back in his small studio apartment, Tom laid the baby on his couch, surrounded by canvases and painting supplies. The baby's cries had softened into faint whimpers. "Well, you need a name," Tom decided, studying the serene face of the creature. "How about Leo? You look like a Leo." The door suddenly swung open, and Jai, Tom's neighbor and occasional drinking buddy, walked in. "Tom," I heard crying. Jai stopped abruptly, staring at Leo. "What the hell is that?" "It's a baby, I think. I found it in the dumpster. But, well, it's not human," Tom explained, still somewhat in disbelief. Jai cautiously approached and then smiled as Leo giggled and waved its tiny hands. "It's kind of cute. What are you going to do with it?" Tom looked at Leo, his decision clear. "I'm going to take care of him. Can you grab some supplies, bottles, formula, maybe some diapers?" "Sure," Jai replied, already grabbing his keys. "You're serious about this, aren't you?" "Yes," Tom affirmed, his gaze softening as he looked at Leo. "I can't just hand him over to the authorities. Who knows what they'd do to him?" When Jai left, Tom turned his attention to Leo. Speaking softly, "You and I, kid, we'll figure this out together." The rest of the night was a blur of attempts to feed Leo, changing makeshift diapers and soothing murmurs. Despite all his alien features, Leo behaved like any human baby, curious, needy, and endearing. Tom knew challenges lay ahead, but as he watched Leo finally fall asleep with a peaceful expression, he felt ready to face them. Whatever secrets Leo held, whatever problems might arise, Tom was determined to protect this new and unexpected life that had literally fallen into his hands. The morning light filtered through the blinds of Tom Sanders' studio, casting long shadows across the tarp-covered floor. Tom sat at his makeshift dining table, cradling Leo in one arm while trying to spoon-feed him what was supposed to be formula. Leo, however, was more interested in making small objects levitate around the room. "Hey, buddy, focus here, please," Tom coaxed, gently guiding Leo's face toward the spoon, from which he slowly floated away. "We need to figure out your diet, but you've got to work with me." At that moment, Jai entered, arms full of baby supplies and a few books on child development he'd picked up from the local library. "I got everything I could think of," Jai announced, dropping the bags on the kitchen counter. "I also found these books. Thought they might help us crack the alien baby code, or something." Tom chuckled, setting down the now-empty bottle. "Thanks, Jai. I'm not sure how much advice for human babies applies here, but we can adapt." Jai picked up a floating pacifier and handed it back to Leo, who giggled and grabbed it with his tiny blue hands. "Seems like adapting is the name of the game," Jai agreed. "How's feeding going?" Jai asked. Tom sighed. "He doesn't seem to like the formula much. I think we might need to try something else. Maybe something more natural." He wasn't sure, but the responsibility of caring for an alien life form weighed heavily on him. As they brainstormed, a knock came at the door. Tom tensed, a wave of anxiety washing over him. He wasn't ready to explain Leo to anyone just yet. Jai peeked through the peephole and relaxed. "It's just Mrs. Chun from next door." Mrs. Chun entered, holding a container of her homemade soup. "I heard you've had a rough night. Thought you might need this," she said warmly, her smile faltering slightly when her eyes landed on Leo. It lasted only a moment. "Oh, what a unique child you have, Tom." Tom managed a nervous smile. "Yes, he's unique. Thank you for the soup, Mrs. Chun." She nodded, placing the soup on the table. "You know, when my daughter was little, she had dietary issues. Sometimes traditional remedies work better than anything the doctor suggested." Tom's eyes lit up with hope. "Traditional remedies?" Mrs. Chun continued, her interest piqued by Leo's curious gaze. "Different broths and natural foods. Maybe he needs something more organic." Grateful for the advice, Tom accepted the soup. "I'll try anything at this point." Over the following days, Tom and Jai experimented with various foods, cautiously introducing Leo to different flavors and textures. Surprisingly, Leo showed a preference for slightly exotic fruits and seemed to thrive on the natural broths Mrs. Chun had suggested. As Tom adapted to his new life with Leo, his art began to reflect his experiences. His latest paintings, vibrant and full of emotion, caught the attention of a local art gallery owner who offered him an opportunity to showcase his work. Amid the chaos of raising an extraterrestrial child, Tom found a sliver of normalcy in his art. It was an unexpected silver lining, providing much-needed financial support and a creative outlet for the emotions he couldn't express otherwise. However, the challenges were just beginning. Leo's developing abilities, telekinesis being just one of them, needed guidance. Tom realized that hiding in plain sight might not be viable for long. The world was vast, and Leo's existence was too extraordinary to keep secret forever. Several months had passed since Tom had first found Leo. Life in Neo San Francisco had settled into a new kind of normal. As Leo's abilities grew, so did his curiosity about the world around him. Tom became more than just a caretaker. He became a teacher, guiding Leo through the complexities of life and human emotions. One crisp morning, as Tom and Leo played in the park, a small crowd gathered, drawn by Leo's innocent attempts to catch falling leaves without touching them. Whispers spread among the onlookers. It wasn't every day you saw a child suspending leaves mid-air. "I know," Tom sighed, lifting Leo into his arms as the child tired of his game. "It's getting harder to keep this a secret. But what choice do we have?" As they walked home, Tom mulled over their options. It was Jai who broke the silence. "Maybe it's not about hiding. Maybe it's about teaching Leo how to control his abilities so he can integrate." "That makes sense," Tom agreed, nodding. "But we'll need help. I don't even know where to start." Back at their apartment, Tom began to research seriously, diving into forums and discreetly contacting experts under the guise of writing a science fiction novel. His efforts paid off when he connected with Dr. Elisa Harris, a retired physicist with a keen interest in extraordinary phenomena. Intrigued by Tom's hypothetical scenarios, Dr. Harris agreed to meet them. Upon seeing Leo in action, her academic curiosity quickly turned into a decision to help. "Leo is truly extraordinary," Dr. Harris observed as she watched him interact with experiments designed to test the limits of his telekinesis. "His abilities may be beyond our current understanding of physics, but they're not uncontrollable. Discipline and training can help him integrate better." Under Dr. Harris's guidance, Tom and Leo worked to control and conceal Leo's powers. Their training sessions were rigorous but filled with laughter and learning, strengthening the bond between Tom and Leo. Leo was a quick learner, eager to please Tom, and soon he could play with other children without revealing his abilities. Despite everything, Tom continued to teach Leo about human values and emotions, using their daily experiences as lessons. He explained the importance of kindness, empathy, and respect, values he hoped would guide Leo in human interactions. Leo absorbed these lessons, and his understanding and emotional depth grew day by day. He asked questions about everything, from the stars in the sky to the smallest insects in the garden. His perspective was often enlightening, sometimes surprising, and reminded Tom that, despite his human upbringing, Leo saw the world differently. One evening, as they watched the sunset from their apartment window, Leo turned to Tom and asked, "Why are people afraid of what they don't know?" Tom ruffled Leo's hair, searching for the right words. "Sometimes fear comes from not understanding. That's why we're learning from each other, right? To replace fear with understanding." Leo nodded thoughtfully, a determined look crossing his youthful face. "I'll help people understand too," he promised, his eyes glinting with resolve. Their journey was no longer just about hiding or surviving. It was about understanding and integration. Tom realized that Leo, with his unique abilities and perspectives, had as much to teach him about life as he had to teach Leo. Their bond, rooted in mutual trust and affection, was their greatest strength as they prepared for whatever challenges lay ahead. As Tom and Leo continued navigating the complexities of their unique family life, the outside world grew increasingly curious and invasive. Reports of a child with extraordinary abilities began to circulate, attracting attention from both the media and more secretive organizations. One chilly afternoon, as Tom and Leo returned from one of Dr. Harris's training sessions, they noticed a black sedan conspicuously parked across the street. A pang of unease shot through Tom as he recalled Jai's recent warnings about a vehicle that seemed to appear too frequently during their outings. That evening, Jai called Tom urgently. "That car's been parked outside for over an hour, and it's not the first time. They're watching, Tom." Tom peered through the blinds, his stomach nodding. "Let's not jump to conclusions. It could be nothing." "Nothing?" Jai interjected. "Tom, this isn't normal. We need to be careful. Maybe it's time to talk to someone who can offer more than just training help." The next day, under the guise of a casual outing, Tom and Jai met with an old friend of Jai's, a former intelligence officer named Mark. In a quiet corner of a bustling cafe, Tom explained his situation. Mark listened intently, his expression growing graver with each word. "Tom, from what you're describing, it seems you've attracted the interest of some high-level players. It could be the government, private entities. It's hard to say, but you're right to be worried." "What do I do?" Tom asked, his voice tense. "I can't just keep running. I have to protect Leo." Mark nodded, his mind racing through options. "First, we need to figure out who they are and what they want. I have contacts who can help us dig deeper. In the meantime, keep your routine unpredictable and stay under the radar." Grateful but concerned, Tom resolved to protect Leo at all costs. He and Jai began altering their routes to and from home and diversifying their daily schedules. Despite their efforts, the black sedan and other signs of surveillance persisted. It became clear that these watchers would not be easily deterred. One afternoon, while Tom and Leo were playing in a secluded area of the park, a man approached them. He was nondescript, middle-aged, and wore a friendly smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Hello, Tom," he said calmly. "My name is Agent Crawford. I need to talk to you about your son." Tom's heart raced as he stood protectively in front of Leo, who clung to his leg, sensing the tension. "We're not interested in any trouble," Tom asserted firmly. Agent Crawford's smile faded. "Tom, we're not here to cause trouble. We're here to understand and, hopefully, help. Leo is special, and there are people who want to ensure his safety and potentially harness his talents." Tom realized this was no longer just about curiosity. It was about control. He looked at Leo, whose wide eyes were filled with a mixture of fear and curiosity. "We don't need any help," Tom responded tersely, turning to leave. "We'll be in touch." Agent Crawford called after them, a clear indication that this was far from over. That night, Tom came to a sobering realization. Their lives had irrevocably changed. They were now players in a much larger game, involving forces beyond simple notions of good and evil. As Tom tucked Leo into bed, he whispered a silent promise to protect his adoptive son, no matter what forces they faced. In the days following the unsettling encounter with Agent Crawford, Tom's concern for Leo's safety reached new heights. Despite his instinct to confront the situation head-on, He knew they needed a more strategic approach. He and Jai decided it was best to leave the city temporarily and remain hidden while figuring out their next steps. With the help of Mark and Dr. Harris, they secured a safe house in a remote, abandoned mining town in Nevada. The town, largely deserted after the collapse of the local mining industry, offered the perfect cover with its sparse population and limited connectivity. As they settled into the dusty, creaky house, Tom set up a small workshop, an art studio, to maintain a sense of normalcy and provide a plausible cover. Leo, on the other hand, was fascinated by the vast desert landscape. Its rugged beauty was a stark contrast to the bustling city parks he was used to. "Remember, Leo," Tom instructed as they explored the rocky terrain, "you can't use your powers here like you did in the park. It's not safe. We don't know who might be watching." Leo nodded solemnly. "I understand, Tom. I'll be careful." Days turned into weeks, and with no signs of Agent Crawford or his associates, Tom began to hope they might have evaded their pursuers. During this time, Leo's control over his abilities improved significantly under Dr. Harris's remote guidance. She sent exercises and lessons through secure communications, which Leo eagerly absorbed. One night, as Tom worked on a new painting inspired by the desert sunset, Jai burst into the studio, his face filled with concern. "We've got a problem," he said, holding up his tablet and showing an image of a drone. "I spotted a couple of unfamiliar vehicles heading this way. They don't look like they're just passing through." Tom's heart sank. "How long do we have?" "An hour, maybe less." Tom wiped his hands on his apron, his mind racing. "All right, we need to hide Leo. There's a basement under the old barn. It's not much, but it should keep him out of sight." As they prepared to move Leo to the hideout, Tom knelt in front of him. "Leo, you have to stay in the basement until I come for you. Can you do that for me?" Understanding the gravity of the situation, Leo nodded. "I'll wait, Tom." With Leo safely hidden, Tom and Jai braced for the arrival of the newcomers. They were determined not to let anyone take Leo without a fight. The vehicles arrived just as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the dusty ground. Tom watched from behind a curtain as several men, equipped with scanning technology, began inspecting the area. He turned to Jai. "Let's try talking to them. If things go south, we'll have to run." Stepping into the cool evening air, Tom approached the men with a steady voice. "Can I help you with something?" The leader of the group, a stern-looking man with a badge reading Federal Security, stopped and looked at Tom. "We're conducting a routine check. Heard there were some disturbances in the area." Tom maintained a neutral expression. "It's just quiet nights out here in the desert. But if we see anything, we'll be sure to let you know." The man nodded slowly, scrutinizing Tom and Jai with suspicion before finally signaling his team to move on. "Keep your eyes open," he warned before the group returned to their vehicles and drove away. Tom exhaled deeply, watching the taillights disappear into the night. He knew this was only a temporary reprieve. They needed a more permanent solution, and soon. For now, though, they had bought themselves another day of freedom, and it was time to bring Leo out of the dark, cold basement. The tense encounter with the federal agents had shaken Tom, but it also solidified the reality of their situation. It was only a matter of time before they were found again. Despite the relief of evading capture that night, Tom knew they needed a sustainable plan. In the days that followed, Tom, Jai, and Dr. Harris worked tirelessly to devise a strategy for keeping Leo safe. Their discussions were interrupted when Jai, who had been monitoring communications for signs of government movement, rushed into the room with urgent news. "They're moving in, Tom," Jai said, his voice tense. "I intercepted some transmissions. They have orders to apprehend us. And Leo, they could be here by the end of the day." A chill of fear settled in Tom's stomach. "We need to move now. Grab whatever we can carry and get out of here." As they hurriedly packed their essentials, Leo sensed the urgency and fear in the air. "Tom, what's happening? Are we in danger?" he asked, his voice trembling slightly. Tom knelt beside him, placing his hands on Leo's shoulders. "We need to go somewhere safe, Leo. Everything will be fine, but we can't stay here." They loaded their old pickup truck with supplies and were about to leave the driveway when a fleet of black SUVs turned onto their street, dust trailing behind them as they sped toward the safe house. "It's too late, Tom. They're here," Jai shouted, realizing escape was no longer an option. Tom made a split-second decision. "Jai, take the truck and lead them away from Leo." "But Tom—" "Do it, Jai," Tom insisted, pushing Jai toward the driver's seat. Reluctantly, Jai nodded and sped off, drawing several SUVs in pursuit. Meanwhile, Tom grabbed Leo's hand and led him to a hidden back exit they had prepared for emergencies. They made their way into the dense brush behind the house, but their escape was short-lived. Anticipating their move, the agents had surrounded them, weapons drawn. "Tom Sanders, you're under arrest for harboring an extraterrestrial entity and evading federal authority," announced the lead agent through a loudspeaker. Tom stood protectively in front of Leo, his heart pounding as he faced the inevitable. "I won't resist, but please don't hurt him. He's just a child," Tom pleaded, hoping to appeal to their humanity. The agents hesitated, and for a moment, Tom thought they might have a chance to negotiate. But then Agent Crawford stepped forward, his face devoid of emotion. "Secure the child and detain Mr. Sanders." Leo was pulled away from Tom despite his desperate protests and struggles. Tom fought back, but was quickly subdued and handcuffed. As he was led away, his eyes met Leo's, filled with tears and confusion. "I'm sorry, Leo. I promise. I'll find you," Tom shouted, his voice choked with emotion. The journey to the city was a blur for Tom, his mind racing with fear for Leo and guilt for failing to protect him. At a secure government facility, Tom was placed in an isolated cell, left alone with his thoughts. The cold sterility of his surroundings only amplified his despair. He couldn't stop thinking about Leo, where he was, what they were doing to him, and how scared he must feel. Meanwhile, Leo was held in a secure research wing of the same facility, subjected to a barrage of tests and observations. Despite the clinical and impersonal environment, Leo's innate resilience shone through. He remembered everything Tom had taught him about courage and kindness, using those lessons to find strength. Leo's unique abilities quickly became evident to the researchers, particularly his telepathy and ability to manipulate electronic devices. While they viewed him as a subject to study, Leo used these sessions to learn and plan. Slowly and carefully, he extended his mind, seeking out Tom. "Tom," Leo whispered into the void one night, hoping his thoughts would find their way. Wide awake in his cell, Tom felt a sudden warm brush against his consciousness. "Leo, is that you?" "Yes, Tom. I'm scared, but I remember what you said about being brave." Leo's voice echoed in Tom's mind, a mixture of relief and sorrow filling Tom. "I'm so proud of you, Leo. I'll get us out of here. I promise." "Just hold on," Tom responded, his resolve renewed. In the following days, Leo used his interactions with the facility's technology to create a mental map of the building. He pinpointed Tom's location and studied the guards' patterns. On the night of their planned escape, Leo reached out telepathically. "Tom, get ready. When the lights go out, that's the signal. I'll open your door." Tom, ready and waiting, felt a surge of hope as the facility's lights flickered and went dark. A sudden hush enveloped the corridors. He heard the click of his electronic cell lock releasing, and the door creaked open. In the ensuing chaos, Leo navigated through the shadows, using his telekinesis to evade guards and surveillance. He reached Tom's cell, and the two reunited in a silent, heartfelt embrace. "Let's go. We need to move quickly," Tom whispered, holding Leo's hand tightly as they slipped through the dimly lit halls. Guided by Leo's telepathic sense of direction, they encountered a few guards along the way. Leo, now more confident in his abilities, managed to disarm them non-lethally, his control over his powers sharper than ever. When they reached the facility's garage, they found a line of vehicles. Concentrating hard, Leo used his powers to unlock one and start its engine by interfacing with its electronics. As they drove away from the facility, Tom glanced at Leo, his heart heavy with mixed emotions, pride, relief, and an unyielding determination. "We're not safe yet, Leo. We need to find a place to hide, regroup, and figure out our next steps." Leo nodded, his young face mirroring Tom's determination. "I want to help Tom, the way you helped me." Tom smiled, gripping Leo's hand gently. "You've already helped more than you know." Their escape marked the beginning of a new chapter in their journey, not just to survive, but to take a stand. Tom knew the road ahead would be fraught with challenges, but with Leo by his side, he felt ready to face whatever came their way. No longer were they just fugitives. They were fighters, determined to protect their right to live freely. After their daring escape from the government facility, Tom and Leo sought refuge in an isolated cabin deep in the Rocky Mountains, a property left abandoned years ago by Tom's late uncle. The location was remote, off the grid, and, most importantly, safe. Here, they found time to heal and plan their next move. During the day, Tom and Leo explored the vast wilderness around them. For Leo, the natural world was a new and exhilarating experience. His enthusiasm for every discovery, trees, streams, wildlife, helped lift Tom's spirits. Together, they spoke often about their future, their fears, and their hopes. "We can't hide forever, Leo," Tom said one chilly morning as their breath formed visible clouds in the mountain air. "Sooner or later, we'll have to face the world again. We'll have to decide how we want to live in it." Leo, who was not only growing in height, but also in wisdom, nodded thoughtfully. "I want to help people understand, Tom, like you helped me. Maybe we can show them that being different isn't something to fear." Tom smiled, proud of the young boy Leo was becoming. "That's a good plan. But we'll need allies, people who can help us share our story." In the safety of the cabin, they began to strategize. Tom reached out to Dr. Harris through secure communication channels, updating her on their situation. She offered her continued support, sending materials to help Leo further refine his abilities, while also helping them network with like-minded individuals who might provide assistance. One such connection came unexpectedly. A journalist, Sarah Davis, contacted Tom after hearing whispers of a miracle child hidden in the mountains. Initially hesitant, Tom vetted her thoroughly, eventually deciding to trust her after learning about her history of exposing government overreach and advocating for human rights. Sarah traveled to the cabin, bringing with her a mix of curiosity and caution. When she met Leo, she was struck by his innocence and extraordinary abilities. "The world needs to hear your story," she said to Tom, her voice steady. "But it has to be done carefully. There are people who will want to use Leo for their own purposes, and we can't let that happen." Tom agreed. Together, they began documenting their journey. Tom's discovery of Leo, their bond, and their struggle to stay free. Sarah promised to protect their identities until the time was right to reveal the truth. Meanwhile, Leo continued to grow stronger and more confident. His abilities, now honed with precision, became tools not just for survival, but also for creating a connection between himself and those around him. The bond between Tom and Leo deepened, rooted in trust and mutual understanding. They knew the challenges ahead would be daunting, but they also knew they weren't alone anymore. After their daring escape from the government facility, Tom and Leo sought refuge in an isolated cabin deep in the Rocky Mountains, a property left abandoned years ago by Tom's late uncle. The location was remote, off the grid, and, most importantly, safe. Here, they found time to heal and plan their next move. During the day, Tom and Leo explored the vast wilderness around them. For Leo, the natural world was a new and exhilarating experience. His enthusiasm for every discovery, trees, streams, wildlife, helped lift Tom's spirits. Together, they spoke often about their future, their fears, and their hopes. "We can't hide forever, Leo," Tom said one chilly morning as their breath formed visible clouds in the mountain air. "Sooner or later, we'll have to face the world again. We'll have to decide how we want to live in it." Leo, who was not only growing in height but also in wisdom, nodded thoughtfully. "I want to help people understand, Tom, like you helped me. Maybe we can show them that being different isn't something to fear." Tom smiled, proud of the young boy Leo was becoming. "That's a good plan. But we'll need allies, people who can help us share our story." In the safety of the cabin, they began to strategize. Tom reached out to Dr. Harris through secure communication channels, updating her on their situation. She offered her continued support, sending materials to help Leo further refine his abilities, while also helping them network with like-minded individuals who might provide assistance. One such connection came unexpectedly. A journalist, Sarah Davis, contacted Tom after hearing whispers of a miracle child hidden in the mountains. Initially hesitant, Tom vetted her thoroughly, eventually deciding to trust her after learning about her history of exposing government overreach and advocating for human rights. Sarah traveled to the cabin, bringing with her a mix of curiosity and caution. When she met Leo, she was struck by his innocence and extraordinary abilities. "The world needs to hear your story," she said to Tom, her voice steady. "But it has to be done carefully. There are people who will want to use Leo for their own purposes, and we can't let that happen." Tom agreed. Together, they began documenting their journey. Tom's discovery of Leo, their bond, and their struggle to stay free. Sarah promised to protect their identities until the time was right to reveal the truth. Meanwhile, Leo continued to grow stronger and more confident. His abilities, now honed with precision, became tools not just for survival but also for creating a connection between himself and those around him. The bond between Tom and Leo deepened, rooted in trust and mutual understanding. They knew the challenges ahead would be daunting, but they also knew they weren't alone anymore. Continuing, as weeks turned into months, the cabin in the mountains became a sanctuary for Tom and Leo. Leo thrived in the solitude, his powers growing more refined and controlled with each passing day. Under Dr. Harris's guidance and with Sarah's moral support, they devised a plan to introduce Leo to the world on their terms. One snowy evening, Sarah sat with Tom and Leo by the fireplace, her notepad resting on her lap. "When we share your story, it's going to shake people," she said. "But we need to focus on the humanity of it, how you've cared for Leo, how he's learned from you, and how he's just a child who wants to belong." Leo, sitting cross-legged on the floor, looked up at Sarah. "Do you think people will still be afraid of me?" Sarah paused, choosing her words carefully. "Some might be, Leo. Fear comes from not understanding. But others will see your heart, your kindness, and your desire to connect. That's what will make the difference." Tom reached over, ruffling Leo's hair. "We're going to show them that fear isn't the answer." Together, the first step in their plan was to release a carefully crafted video. In it, Tom spoke candidly about his journey with Leo, describing their bond and the extraordinary challenges they had faced. Leo appeared briefly, demonstrating his abilities in a controlled and non-threatening way, his youthful voice asking for understanding rather than fear. The video was distributed anonymously through Sarah's trusted network, designed to reach people who valued truth and fairness. The response was overwhelming. Messages of support flooded in from around the globe, scientists offering assistance, families expressing empathy, and activists rallying for Leo's protection. However, not all responses were positive. Some feared Leo's powers, while others sought to exploit them. The government, now aware of the video, intensified its efforts to locate them. Surveillance drones and search teams scoured the mountains, forcing Tom, Leo, and Sarah to remain constantly vigilant. Despite the danger, they refused to abandon their mission. One fateful evening, while monitoring incoming messages, Sarah discovered a lead, a secure communication from a group of whistleblowers within the government. They claimed to be allies, willing to expose the darker agendas behind the efforts to capture Leo. "We have to take this risk," Sarah urged. "If they're genuine, they could be the key to protecting Leo and holding those in power accountable." Tom hesitated but ultimately agreed. "If it means keeping Leo safe and showing the world the truth, we'll do it." The meeting was set for a remote location, deep within the mountains. As they approached the rendezvous point, tension hung thick in the air. Tom kept Leo close, his protective instincts heightened. When they arrived, the whistleblowers, a small group of former agents, revealed shocking information about secret programs aimed at exploiting individuals like Leo. "You're not alone," one of them said. "There are others out there, children, adults, hidden, taken, or in hiding. Leo's story could help bring them to light and end this cycle of control." This revelation galvanized Tom and Leo. Their fight was no longer just about their survival, but about giving a voice to others like Leo who had been silenced. With new allies by their side, their mission took on a greater purpose. The information shared by the whistleblowers was both a revelation and a call to action. Leo was not the only one. There were others with extraordinary abilities, kept in secret facilities or living in fear of being discovered. Tom realized that their story could be a beacon of hope for those who had no voice. Over the next few weeks, their small team worked tirelessly to uncover more evidence of the government's covert programs. The whistleblowers provided classified documents and testimonies, while Sarah used her investigative skills to verify and compile the information. Meanwhile, Leo continued to train, his powers evolving in ways that even amazed Dr. Harris. "Leo, you're stronger than you know," Dr. Harris said during a video call one day. "But strength isn't just about your abilities. It's about how you use them to protect, to inspire, and to show the world that being different is something to celebrate." Leo nodded, his young face determined. "I want to help the others, like they helped me." As their plan took shape, the group decided to stage a live broadcast. It would be risky, but it was the most effective way to reach a global audience and expose the truth. Using a hidden location and secure technology, they prepared to go public. Tom and Sarah rehearsed their messages, while Leo practiced controlling his powers for a demonstration that would show the world he was not a threat. The day of the broadcast arrived. Tom spoke first, his voice steady despite the weight of the moment. He told their story from the beginning, finding Leo, the challenges they faced, and their journey to safety. Leo is not a weapon. He's a child, and like any child, he deserves love, protection, and the freedom to live without fear, Tom said, his words resonating with heartfelt conviction. When Leo stepped into view, he addressed the audience with innocence and clarity. "I just want to learn to play and to be part of the world. I don't want anyone to be scared of me." Leo then gently demonstrated his abilities, lifting small objects into the air and creating patterns that mesmerized viewers. The simplicity of his actions, combined with his sincerity, struck a chord with millions. The response was immediate and powerful. Support poured in from across the globe, overshadowing the voices of fear and skepticism. Activists and human rights organizations rallied around their cause, demanding transparency and accountability from governments. The whistleblower's evidence was released alongside the broadcast, sparking investigations and public outcry. But the risks remained. The government intensified its efforts to find and silence them. Their sanctuary in the mountains was no longer safe. Knowing they had achieved a significant breakthrough, Tom and his team decided to keep moving, staying ahead of those who sought to suppress the truth. As they prepared to leave, Tom looked at Leo, who stood beside him, his gaze steady and unwavering. "Leo, this is just the beginning. We've started something bigger than ourselves. Are you ready?" Leo smiled, his small hand reaching for Tom's. "I'm ready, Tom. As long as we're together, we can do anything." With renewed purpose and an ever-growing network of allies, Tom and Leo stepped into the unknown, their mission clear: to fight for a world where everyone, no matter how different, could live freely. Their journey was far from over, but they faced it with courage, love, and hope.